in the world did I just sit through? What did I just witness? I'm pretty sure I just had.
On Saturday night, the Indiana Fever faced off against the Los Angeles Sparks in a WNBA matchup that left fans, players, and coaches reeling, not just from the 89-87 loss, but from the officiating that turned a competitive game into a showcase of frustration and inconsistency. What began as a routine game, one where the Fever were expected to hold their own despite missing their star player, Caitlin Clark, quickly spiraled into a chaotic display of referee incompetence. The final score was only part of the story. The real narrative centered on missed calls, questionable decisions, and a blatant disregard for player safety that left everyone questioning what they had just witnessed. The game started with the kind of energy you'd expect from a team like the Fever, who, despite their 9-9 record, have shown flashes of brilliance this season. Without Clark sidelined by a groin injury, the team leaned heavily on players like Aaliyah Boston and Natasha Howard to carry the load. Boston delivered with 23 points and 12 rebounds, while Howard contributed 21 points and 9 rebounds, shooting an efficient 8 of 11 from the field. Their performances were a testament to the Fever's resilience, especially against a Sparks team that entered the game with a dismal 5-13 record, one of the worst in the league. On paper, this was a game the Fever should have won handily, even without their superstar. But the reality on the court was far messier, thanks in large part to the officiating. The most glaring issue came in the form of a non-call involving Sophie Cunningham, a player who has become a lightning rod for controversy this season due to her physicality and willingness to protect her teammates. In the first quarter, during what should have been a routine loose ball situation, Cunningham dove for the ball and was met with aggressive contact from Julie Vanloo of the Sparks. Vanloo grabbed Cunningham around the neck and face, a dangerous move that could have easily resulted in injury. The play was right in front of the officials, yet they called it a jump ball, as if violent contact to a player's face and neck was just another part of the game. The arena buzzed with disbelief, and even the broadcasters couldn't mask their confusion. This wasn't just a missed call, it was a refusal to acknowledge an obvious foul that prioritized player safety. To make matters worse, the same referee crew showed a baffling level of scrutiny in other moments, particularly when it came to Sydney Colson of the Sparks. Colson, who finished the game with 6 points, 5 assists, and a pair of rebounds, made a textbook defensive play on Rakia Jackson, cleanly blocking a shot by touching only the ball. Yet the referees called a foul, forcing the Fever to use a challenge to overturn the call. The review process took nearly 5 minutes, an eternity in a close game, as the officials debated what should have been an obvious non-call. The contrast was infuriating. Cunningham gets grabbed by the face and neck, and the refs do nothing. Colson makes a clean play, and they're ready to blow the whistle and spend half a quarter reviewing it. This selective enforcement wasn't just inconsistent, it felt like a deliberate double standard. The Fever's frustration was palpable, and it wasn't just about 1 or 2 bad calls. The officiating throughout the game seemed to tilt the playing field against them. In the final minutes, the Fever were in the bonus, a rare advantage they'd earned with 5.5 minutes left in the game, the first time all season they'd reached that threshold so early. A loose ball situation looked like it would result in a foul call in their favor, potentially sending them to the free throw line. But the refs changed their initial call, resetting the possession and wiping away the Fever's advantage. It was a microcosm of the night, moments of hope for fair officiating dashed by baffling decisions. The loss stung all the more because the Sparks, despite their poor record, have historically matched up well against the Fever. Rakia Jackson, in particular, was a thorn in Indiana's side, dominating in the final 3 minutes and exploiting the Fever's defense. The Sparks' physicality, combined with the referees' reluctance to call fouls on their aggressive plays, put the Fever in an impossible position. Missed free throws and questionable shot selections in the clutch didn't help, but the Fever's effort was undeniable. They fought until the final buzzer, missing their last 5 shots, including 4 in the final minute, as the weight of playing short-handed and battling biased officiating took its toll. This game wasn't just a loss, it was a case study in everything wrong with WNBA officiating. The referees' failure to protect players like Cunningham while obsessing over clean plays like Colson's exposed a deeper issue of selective enforcement. Cunningham, who has been a vocal defender of her teammates all season, particularly when opponents targeted Caitlin Clark earlier in the year, deserved better. She's been unfairly painted as a villain for standing up for her team, yet when she's the one taking punishment, like a blatant grab to the face, the officials turn a blind eye. Meanwhile, players like Coulson, who played intelligently and effectively, are penalized for doing their jobs correctly. The inconsistency is maddening, and it's not a new problem for the Fever. Throughout the season, the Fever have faced what feels like systematic bias from officials. Game after game, they're forced to overcome not just their opponents, but also refereeing that seems to disproportionately disadvantage them. The Cunningham incident was just the latest in a string of moments where the refs have failed to uphold their most basic responsibility, ensuring player safety and enforcing the rules fairly. When a player can be grabbed around the neck with no consequence, but a clean block requires a 5-minute review, the system is broken. The Fever's 9-9 record feels more like 9-10 when you factor in the uphill battle they face against officiating crews that seem determined to make their lives harder. The absence of Caitlin Clark only amplified the frustration. Clark, the Fever's superstar and one of the league's brightest young talents, has been a game changer for the team. Her absence exposed just how limited the Fever's offense can be without her, putting to rest the absurd notion floated by some analysts that the team might be better off without her. The Fever's performance without Clark was gritty, but it was clear they missed her scoring, playmaking, and ability to stretch defenses. With her on the court, this game might have been a comfortable win, even with the officiating woes. Instead, the Fever were left to rely on Boston and Howard's interior dominance, which wasn't enough to overcome both the Sparks and the referees. The broadcasters, fans, and even the players couldn't hide their exasperation. Coach Stephanie White, who has been fined multiple times this season for calling out officiating issues, once again spoke candidly after the game. She emphasized the need for her team to stay disciplined and focused, but her words carried an undercurrent of frustration with the referees. White's leadership has been a bright spot for the Fever, as she's guided them through adversity, including their Commissioner's Cup victory earlier in the season. But even she can't fully compensate for the officiating challenges her team faces. Her decision to start Lexi Hall, who tried to draw charges to get Jackson in foul trouble, was a smart tactical move, but it wasn't enough to shift the game's momentum when the refs refused to call obvious fouls. The Fever's locker room mentality reflects their resilience. They know they're a marked team, circled on every opponent's schedule. As White noted, no one likes them, and they have to lean on each other to navigate the hostility they face, both from opponents and, it seems, from the officials. The team's chemistry and defensive intensity have improved significantly this season, with players like Cunningham stepping up as enforcers and leaders. But they shouldn't have to fight this hard against external factors that have nothing to do with basketball. The WNBA's officiating problem isn't just a Fever issue, it's a league-wide crisis that's undermining the sport's credibility. Fans are noticing, and their frustration is growing. Social media posts on X after the game echoed the sentiment that the referees were costing teams games and putting players at risk. One user summed it up bluntly, "WNBA refs are a joke." Sophie Cunningham gets her face grabbed, no call. Sydney Coulson makes a clean block, foul. Fever got robbed. Another wrote, "The Fever are playing against two teams every night, their opponents and the refs. How is this fair?" These reactions aren't just sour grapes from disappointed fans. They reflect a broader sentiment that the league needs to address its officiating standards before it loses the trust of its audience.